You might remember back on July 16th of this year, we discussed the European Union Horizon 2020 grant to the Privilege Project that included Cardano and how that might turn out to be the deal before the deal. It looks like it's time for us to talk about that again. Ready? Let's go. This is going to be one of those discussions where we open our minds to wild speculation. We don't actually know what, if anything, is going to happen between the EU and Cardano. But we're going to do one of the things we do best around here, and that is engage in unfounded, baseless, irresponsible speculation. Bloomberg pushed out this article, which is about the EU spending a bunch of euros on technology. There's not really anything special about that. Gigantic nation state actors like the EU talk about spending money on technology all the time. It's not really anything new. This article, however, is something new because it's called EU Targets Blockchain and Data in Make or Break Tech Investment. Ursula von der Leyen here, the EU Commission President, gave her State of the Union speech, State of the Union for 2021 speech, and she laid out that the EU is going to seriously pursue blockchain technology. So they've got this 2030 agenda. You'll remember from our last video about the EU, we talked about the Horizon 2020 series of grants, how Cardano through IOHK and some of its researchers at the University of Edinburgh had received some grant money to do some things involving blockchain. And it kind of looked like the equivalent of like a design study, the kind of thing you do that would be sort of the deal before the deal. They only spent, I think it was $4.5 million. Here they're talking about spending a fifth of this 750 billion euro fund on some of these digital technology fronts. And there's some data stuff in there, 5G, data infrastructure, high performance computing, secure quantum communication, and also blockchain services. So a fifth of this 750 billion euros, which is 887 billion in USD, is the equivalent of 177 billion USD. There are a bunch of different categories on this list, and obviously we don't know how much any single category here is going to get of that $177 billion. As with all things in governance, it's probably going to be a tortured bureaucratic process. But we have to ask ourselves, what if this blockchain services piece, what if it gets 50 billion? What if it gets 20 billion? What if it only gets 10 billion? Any of these amounts could be huge for any blockchains that are involved in this. Here's why even something on the small end could be huge for any blockchain involved. You remember from our last video on the EU, we talked about the scale of the European Union and the size of this part of the world. We're talking about 447 million people. We've got almost 500 million people, and we've got a nominal GDP of $17 trillion. So even if only 10 billion was spent, that 10 billion might be enough to build a system that onboards some percentage of this 500 million people. If it's something that's useful sort of across the jurisdictions of the EU, not saying that anything could really be useful across every single jurisdiction, but if something was useful across some percentage of the national jurisdictions involved in the EU, and some percentage of the citizens in those jurisdictions wanted to use this service, whatever it might be, digital identity, finance, banking, whatever it ends up being, this could be a huge number of people onboarded to whatever blockchain is involved in this. And granted, we don't know, is it going to be an actual blockchain like we think about blockchains? a public blockchain like Cardano, a permissionless public blockchain, or is it going to be some kind of private blockchain where the EU controls all the nodes and there's absolutely nothing public about it? We have no idea. But you'll remember from our discussion a few days ago that we saw this tweet from the head of communications at the Cardano Foundation when he gave us the subtle hint that some of the partnerships we're announcing at the Cardano Summit will blow people's minds. Okay, not subtle at all. He's straight up telling us he has mind-blowing partnerships to announce. What would fit that bill better than if they were going to announce some kind of a project with the European Union? So let's play this out for a second. And again, this is wild, unfounded, baseless speculation. But let's just intellectually explore this for a second, because who knows? If the Cardano Summit was going to involve an announcement of a big project with the EU or any project with the EU, Cardano would have known for a while. They would have known for a while. So what would it look like if Cardano were gearing up for a big EU deal, and let's add on, they knew it would likely initially be focused on fintech? What would we see? We would probably see Frederick Regard, CEO of the Cardano Foundation, giving little fireside chats where he tells us like, hey, the big thing I'm all about right now is talking to institutions in the financial scene and letting them know that Cardano is ready to partner with them. We'd probably see that. And we have. Frederick Regard gave that fireside chat where that's exactly what he said. He said, hey, I'm talking to players in the financial scene right now. That's what the Cardano Foundation is all about right now. We might also see them striking partnerships with a bunch of financial infrastructure providers to gear up for this deal, to show the EU that they've already made all the right connections with the right kinds of infrastructure providers to satisfy the needs of whatever it is the EU wants to do. So even just recently, in the last couple of days, we saw this announcement. Cardano Foundation says, Taurus successfully integrated Cardano blockchain, including staking capabilities, into its institutional grade platform. And they quote Frederick Regard saying, de-risking decentralization for regulators and other institutional organizations is of paramount importance to the Cardano Foundation. So a lot of people had the same question about this bit of news. They were like, okay, we already have a bunch of stake pools. Are you really partnering with them because of their staking capabilities? Because I think consumers are pretty happy with the staking that's going on with stake pools. I think they might be onto something there, because I don't think consumer staking is what this partnership is necessarily all about. If we go to the Taurus website, here's what we find. Some interesting things. Hey, we created Taurus in 2018. We were trying to build the first regulated digital asset exchange. And I think here's the important part. Back then, the available infrastructure was not meeting our needs, nor those of institutional players such as stock exchanges, banks, asset managers. This fits the narrative perfectly. The first thing they call out after telling us why they were founded is that they're seeking to meet the needs of institutional players. As we glance around their site, we see things like this. Our banking grade custody technology is patent pending. Taurus platform provides institutional grade, high security and compliance standards in order to guarantee sustainability and resilient operations. If we go up here to solutions, we see they're all about being for any business willing to start, grow, or scale digital asset activity with an enterprise grade infrastructure. Everywhere we look on this website, we see stuff about it being institutional grade infrastructure. And it looks like they've got platforms for custody, digital issuance and tokenization, and also what looks to be some kind of a marketplace or DEX. This is probably exactly the type of company that you partner with if you're trying to convince EU regulators that their banks can hold your cryptocurrency. If we go back a little further in time, you'll remember the Nexo deal. Here's the co-founder and managing partner at Nexo. He says it's a bullish day for crypto Europe. The EU announced it will be fueling technological growth with a 177 billion fund for blockchain and other advancements. This could stimulate jobs, accelerate adoption, on and on. This is a landmark investment. Thanks to Daniil Wiggins for pointing this out. Because honestly, when the Nexo partnership happened back in June, it was a little bit of a mystery to me why they got so much billing on the IOHK blog. IOHK told us this was a strategic partnership to expand the Cardano ecosystem and that this would allow Cardano users to access instant crypto credit lines. While Switzerland is obviously not a member of the EU, we see on the Nexo website that Nexo is obviously a part of the Swiss crypto scene, like a lot of crypto companies globally. And let's face it, Europe is not exactly, the EU is not exactly unfamiliar with Switzerland as a financial hub. So if you were trying to bolster your credentials for an application to an EU project of some type, it wouldn't exactly be a terrible idea to lock up a partnership with Nexo so that you can claim to have those crypto loan capabilities. You probably noticed in this very same blog entry about Nexo, the IOHK blog mentions Orion. Orion was another project that seemed to get pretty high billing in a lot of presentations. And it was a little bit confusing to me why there was so much focus on Orion. It was like, okay, this is great. This is the onboarding of another company to the Cardano ecosystem, but this is probably going to happen a lot. And we don't exactly give this much attention every time like a new exchange decides to list Cardano. But then you have to think about what Orion is supposed to be. So Orion bills itself as the first gateway to the entire crypto market. The terminal will aggregate every centralized exchange, decentralized exchange, and swap pool into one decentralized platform. This is the trading terminal for crypto traders. Orion has already got everybody on board. They've partnered with every single Gen 3 blockchain. Okay, not every single one, but a whole bunch. Again, if you were making a proposal to fulfill some kind of a project with the EU, and the EU saying to you, hey, a bunch of your competitors are already incorporated into what we think is going to be the trading terminal for crypto, how come you guys aren't there? Then you'd probably run out and immediately partner with that trading terminal. When we think about these partnerships all together, maybe a little bit of a pattern starts to emerge. I mean, if you're Ursula von der Leyen and let's say you're trying to roll out a crypto-based fintech infrastructure for Europe, you might want things like institutional grade platforms, institutional grade custody in Taurus. You might want those institutions to be able to access crypto credit lines like you could with Nexo. You might want for there to be an aggregated crypto trading terminal like with Orion. Don't get me wrong, there's a bunch of other things you'd want and maybe some even more important things, but these things all kind of fit a pattern. If you're trying to build out a crypto fintech infrastructure, these could all be elements in this, especially if you're applying for some kind of a gigantic grant to run a big project for the EU on your blockchain. The EU might say to you, hey, we'd really love it if you had the following things. So you would go out and partner with these kind of entities and you would give them top billing on your IOHK blog and on your Cardano Foundation Twitter, because these are important projects for the really important project that you're trying to get done with the EU. Again, this is totally unfounded speculation. This is one version of the future that could be totally wrong. But I constantly find one of the best ways to peer into the future is to constantly ask yourself, what if? Talk to you tomorrow.